The brutality of ICE remains unabated for the most part. Kat Abu Ghazala, I headlined this, but is a Democrat who was running in Illinois. She was thrown to the ground by ICE. We played that clip, and now is facing federal charges for attending a protest outside of an ICE processing center in the Chicago area. And then we had the news from late yesterday, earlier this morning, I believe, that Trump and the administration are starting to purge ICE out of the immigration offices in the cities of Denver, Los Angeles, San Diego, Philadelphia, Phoenix. Many of these ICE agents were basically shuttered out, or the Washington Examiner was reporting this, because they're trying to replace them with Border Patrol instead of ICE. Now, Border Patrol has experience using force along the border, specifically the Mexico border. This is potentially an escalation from these like rogue thugs with no training to thugs with more militaristic training in the streets of our cities.
Yeah, that's pretty clearly the intent.
At the very least, we'll see how it unfolds. But if you thought things were bad, and they are, they have the real potential to get worse with this action. Now, in Chicago, there was a Halloween parade. Let's play clip number 4 here. Here is some footage. This is graphic, right? We want to...
It's not.
Okay, it's not super graphic, but it's obviously upsetting.
His bleeding was internal.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
so
fucking
it's
gross.
Not less graphic. Spill onto the pavement.
And the he that Brian just referred to is a 67-year-old man who was out for a run, and basically they beat and arrested this man when they were disrupting a children's Halloween parade.
Yeah, coming home from a run. He was this is his block. That's why he drove on. He wasn't even trying to interfere. He was just trying to drive home.
This is from a run club Instagram. This is not am I getting that right? PW running one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to read this, one of our athletes was on his way home from a team long run yesterday. As he turned onto his block, found that Border Patrol had the road blocked. The agents threatened to break his window if he didn't move his car before he could act. They pulled him out of his car, knelt on his back, subdued him, though he never resisted. They broke 6 of his ribs and caused internal bleeding.
Get off of him! Get off of him! Get off of him! It's all being recorded!
2 guys on his 67-year-old.
And he said if you need me to move my car, I'll move my car.
Dude, what is you're fucking suffocating!
Tear gas, terror, and lawlessness in our streets. There were kids and families having a Halloween parade on his block as this happened. This is the running club kind of explaining what happened there. Now let's play clip number 6, too. This is another just horrific example. This is in Virginia. These ICE agents basically violently detained this woman. She's been in the country legally for 20 years. And she didn't have her social security number memorized.
She just got her social security number.
And so she doesn't know, didn't have it memorized off the top of her head, and is apparently still being held in custody with no charges so far. there was no need to be violent there.
There's no need to detain that person at all. There's no need for those fascists to be on our streets. And there's nothing that can happen in response to this that will make me condemn any kind of resistance that people put up towards this sort of thuggery. This is absolutely beyond the pale. This is the sort of thing that Republicans talk about, like tyranny or whatever. This is it. This is it right there. These sort of fucking thugs.
I mean, I can't. The hypocrisy is it's such an obvious point, but the whole Obama administration, the Republican Party was about remember Ted Cruz was saying he's going to put us in Hobbit homes. They're going to have death panels. This authoritarian government, big federal government, coming to make you unsafe, coming to interfere in your life. And now we have this Republican administration consistently justifying just doing away with states' rights and sovereignty because, God forbid, they're led by a Democrat. And even if not, because they want their Gestapo to terrorize communities with immigrants in them. The hypocrisy is, it's barely like, it's not even that important to point out except to show how quick that turnaround was.
I mean, not just the hypocrisy, but the stupidity. And it's, I think, society-wide, because we're watching the building blocks of our own fascist takeover arise just around us. And they've been occurring and they've been being built, over Democratic and Republican administrations for the past 20, 30, 40 years, right? Because ICE is a recent invention. This kind of militarization of the police is very recent, and it's been occurring, like, speaking of Obama, during and expanding during the Obama years. And now it's becoming more outright fascist, taking to the streets. It's not just targeting immigrants. We know that. Not that that would make it okay. They're sweeping up citizens. They're trying to denationalize people for their political opinions, and a subsection of our population is still championing it, thinking that it's going to be cordoned over onto those populations. But we're already seeing it expanding to everybody. I mean, I think that we have to speak to the reality that the United States of America has been so successfully propagandized that they cheer on their own like fascist takeover, like because they think it's going to somehow not just benefit them in those like specific ethno-nationalist sense, but it's going to, solve this like larger consumer crisis that has gripped the nation. Like they think this is going to be the solution to joblessness. They think this is going to be a solution to the cost of housing, to the fact that they can't find a girlfriend. Like this is some sort of like catch-all solution for everything that ails America, and it's inevitably going to be used against everybody who's not uber wealthy.
Right. And we should also make it clear that there are also people who aren't fooled or propagandized in that way, but are just getting enjoyment out of this because they are fascists and white nationalists. And yes. Yeah, I mean, I've said this every time I see a video like this, the first thing that I could think of, because there's nothing you can do right now in terms of, obviously people in the streets are doing a great job. There's been countless videos where I've seen where ICE agents have been have given up on whatever they went out to do in that moment and left the scene because the neighborhood got together and just too many people. But in terms of holding people accountable who have already done these things, like this woman's already been thrown to the floor and violently, I don't know what her current status is, but she's already gone through enough based on what I've seen in this video. Whoever takes over, whatever Democrat wants to be next in line, they need to first and foremost say everyone involved in these disgusting videos, from the height, the top of the administration, all the way to the foot soldiers on the ground in the videos, they will be legally held liable. I want to see everyone involved in this, in court. Anyone,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's been nice to see is that you have Letitia James here in New York, who is starting this place where you can upload footage like this to have accountability for future prosecutions. Same thing's happening in Chicago, and in Illinois. I think either Pritzker or they're working together on it. I think it was Pritzker actually that set it up statewide. trying to make sure that we document this so charges can be filed at some point against these ICE officials. And someone writes in saying it's not a hypocrisy. Fascism will embrace contradictory politics in a search for power and control. Professor Soyboy said that. That's a better way of saying what I was trying to say in that instance, which is that the ends are the basically like violent ethnic cleansing of this country in order to obscure the fact that the Republican Party has nothing to materially provide for people except like actually further immiseration, as we're seeing right now with SNAP benefits and the hunger crisis being potentially, if SNAP benefits are, if the Trump administration allows SNAP benefits to expire and refuses to, as they're saying, tap into the reserve fund to supplement it, it will be a major, major hunger crisis across this country. And the Republican Party is happy to do that. There's a lot of what they're doing right now are shocks to the American public, because there is this like belief amongst the capitalist class that labor got a little bit too strong during COVID. And that is in part why the child tax credit expired and we plunged millions of people back into poverty. And that's what Joe Manchin and Sinema were doing, representing those interests and killing that part of Build Back Better. And then there is like this overall just fascist, almost Nazi ideology here that is represented by J.D. Vance in this clip, where he was speaking to Pod Force One. What a horrible, horrible name for a podcast. But like, you know, we talk about how the only path forward with the Israel-Palestine issue is one democratic state making greater Israel one democratic state from the river to the sea, making the areas that Israel has illegally occupied since 1967, East Jerusalem and the West Bank, where there's 700,000 settlers in the West Bank already. Talking about a two-state solution without addressing the fact that 700,000 Israelis illegally live in Palestinian territory is insane. But that's an aside. When we talk about that, it's because racial integration and multiculturalism is the antidote to fascism. Why is J.D. Vance, why is this administration so obsessed with cities? Because there are a variety of different people who live next to one another. That's why art and culture come out of cities in many ways. It's because people experience other people's perspectives. They learn about other parts of the world and other people, even other parts of the country. And that is a threat to fascism. It's a threat to what they're trying to do, to demonize certain classes of people. And here Vance just outright says it, that multiculturalism essentially is a threat to them.
Who's out of a house is actually evicted from the house because there are people who are going to pay more for rent. And then what happens is 20 people move into a 3-bedroom house, 20 people from a totally different culture, totally different ways of interacting. Again, we can respect their dignity while also being angry at the Biden administration for letting that situation happen and recognizing that their next door neighbors are going to say, well, wait a second, what is going on here? I don't know these people. They don't speak the same language that I do. And because there are 20 in the house next door, it's a little bit rowdier than it was when there was just a family of 4, a family of 5. It is totally reasonable and acceptable for American citizens to look at their next door neighbors and say, I want to live next to people who I have something in common with. I don't want to live next to 4 families of strangers. And the fact that we had
this is literally the argument that you would have heard, that you did hear, to justify segregation and the Jim Crow South. And it's just being made really openly by the VP.
It really is, but J.D. Vance is always just whining. Even when he's arguing for like racial segregation and ethnic cleansing, he still comes across as like a real whiner. He's such a whinger. He's such a loser. I can see why like Donald Trump had to like drag him out of the muck to get him that Ohio senator seat, because like he just never comes across as having anything like resembling a backbone. But to your point, Matt, Bender, and also to your point, Emma, like that's also why they're obsessed with schools too. It's why they're obsessed with colleges, because they know that for a lot of students, a lot of people, because our society is still like segregated in neighborhoods based on socioeconomic and racial and religious lines, college is going to be the first place that a lot of people step outside of their like homogenous bubble. And so they invented things like TPUSA to counteract the inherently radicalizing effect of being on a college campus. But also, to your point, Matt, the current rise of fascism that we have now is also a crisis of accountability. And that's why what you're saying is so important. There has to be real accountability for what's going on in Gaza. There has to be real accountability what's going on domestically with ICE. And it has to include like actual criminal punishment, because otherwise we'll just be back to where we are here in, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whenever Republicans find themselves back in control. But that crisis of accountability has been facilitated by the capitalist class, because the rise of neo-fascists is a direct consequence of the centralization of most of the material wealth in our society in the hands of the uber wealthy, which leads to fertile ground for fascists to recruit. And then we have, a centrist class that is more amenable to the idea of fascism because it's more amenable to the idea of capitalism, but so much more amenable to the idea of capitalism than, leftist ideas about redistribution of wealth. And so we've created a society that has incentivized spreading fascism. And, that's where we are now.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, I know Sagar and Jetty is a close viewer of this program, and particularly Emma Vigland. Take a peek at the last few minutes of analysis, buddy.
Oh, they're good friends, I thought. Him and JD Vance, apparently.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
And he supported this stuff.
JD Vance has friends.
Sometimes people play things up.
I just think, like, if he's going to
be
go
friends
at,
with him.
If Sagar's going to go at Emma about this Plattner thing, okay, we're going to notice each other now. Let's notice each other.
I would need to, I mean, I guess...
I want to see a little bit more of a about face from the people who supported this fucking fascist Gestapo shit before they start talking about Manners and Graham Plattner, personally. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. That's a great point. But I do think Crystal's got that down
I know, Crystal's definitely got it. I just can't believe, like, now we're so fixated on Emma Vigland that we can't even talk about the actual issue of Graham Plattner. Well,
but that's because it's a threat.
Well, I
right?
missed something completely. I'm out of the loop here.
Everyone's obsessed with Emma defending Graham Plattner, which was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think that, one, I've been a little out of the loop over the past 72 hours because I moved, and I'm still in Brooklyn, and we just moved from a 1 to a 2 bed, so I'm not,
Moving up
very
in the world,
fancy.
Jefferson style.
But I think it was because, they rely on a certain a caricature of a liberal to justify their aesthetic populism. But when the aesthetic of what they want matches with the politics of a Brooklyn leftist / like myself, that is scary to kind of a very paper thin portrayal of right-wing populism. And I think it's probably more threatening to him than ever because we're seeing that right-wing populism is completely fugazi. It's falling apart. Their number.
It's a joke. Especially the border freakout that he subscribed to and pushed entirely. Because this is what this movement was supposed to represent, including a guy like Josh Hawley, as we talked about earlier in the show, who can never follow through on his aesthetic about this because he is a part of the Republican Party, and the Republican Party represents capital and not workers, even if they try to, create that sort of branding. It's branding versus politics. That's it.
No one hates people more than the Republican Party does. 100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just can't. Brandon mentioned the media element of people pushing this stuff, and that goes for other people who are criticizing Emma's Plattner take too, who may have been talking about Tren de Aragua last year, and maybe pivoted to supporting Palestine or something a little bit more palatable.
I love when Matt White knights for me because I'm a little bit out of this one. I should need to reverse Google search to catch up on some of this stuff, but. All right.
Go back to broadcast instead of me taking shots.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.